always has to be a shot at somebody.
No.
They're never clean.
They have to run. That's the only shot they have.
They do it for 82 games. We're about to find out.
He already has shown what he's capable of.
Did surprise me. I thought we were going to hang in there.
This makes me think that we do need to be humble.
I actually think you're the only one who deserved that.
Yeah. We're back.
Above 500.
Couple days off, Sherrod, but you know what? Like you said, the Celtics are above 500. It doesn't matter that it came against the worst team in all of the land. The Brooklyn,
Maybe ever.
The Brooklyn Knots. Amit, we lost the lower third, dude. Damn it, Amit. Give me that lower third back. Try to get the score to this game. What was it? What was the final score?
113.99 was the final.
113.99. The Celtics improved to above 500. The Nets, God knows. But subscribe to You Got... Oh, look at Amit putting this. Subscribe to You Got Boston on CLNS Media, YouTube, Apple, and Spotify. Damn it, Amit. You know, it was a Nets game, and it felt like maybe the Celtics treated it that way, Sherrod, at the beginning. Maybe Amit's treating it that way too. But it felt like it was an uncharacteristic game for the Celtics in terms of ball security. I know in football, ball security is paramount, right? You got to limit the turnovers. You got to control that aspect of the game. There you go. We got the score up there now, 113.99. Celtics with, I think, 11 turnovers in the first half, something like that. Yeah, I think they finished with close to 18, if not 18 exactly. But uncharacteristic performance from them. But they shot great from three, close to 50%. Yeah. Ultimately, that was the reason they pulled this one off, because they weren't getting out in the break, scoring in transition, fast break-wise. They were kind of sloppy with the handle. But the usual suspects came through when it mattered most in the fourth quarter. Jaylen Brown got you 29 points tonight. I think Derek White had 20.
D-White had 15.
D-White had 15. Okay, who had 22? Pritchard?
Pritchard had 22.
Pritchard had 22. D-White had 15, but he had like a big 15. Like what he did for you late in that fourth quarter, defensively and offensively, with a big three-pointer in the corner there. That's the D-White that, you know, the Celtics have kind of have their fingers crossed that would show up more often than not this season. And feels like after a slow start to the year, we're not completely there yet, obviously, but we're getting signs of life. You know, we're doing the CPR on this team. We're above 500 now. Scratching.
They got a pulse.
Away there.
They finally have a pulse.
And as bad as it could be, Sherrod, it can be. The Nets show you that it can be a lot worse.
They can. They can. And right. And but the big thing about this game, and I think it's really when you look at the last, I'd say 4 or 5 games with the Celtics, their big three of Jaylen, Pritchard, and Derek White are looking more and more like a legitimate big three. And by that, I simply mean the 3 best players on the floor for your team, night in, night out. Those guys have to be, and it doesn't matter the order. They just have to be your best 3 players. And they were again tonight. You know, as you pointed out, Derek White hit some big shots. Pritchard got them off to a great start in the first half. And aside from the turnovers, Jaylen had a strong game: 29 points, 4 dimes, 4 rebounds, and defensively, you know, wasn't great but didn't suck. This was a pretty par for the course Jaylen Brown kind of game. And again, this game, even though they didn't play their best basketball, they still, when it mattered most, kept Brooklyn from making this game more uncomfortable. You know, and that's what you want to have happen. You know,
it was uncomfortable for a minute, though. We're talking early in the fourth.
But you know what? It never felt as though Brooklyn was going to like just run away with this thing and take it over. It just felt that, you know, the Celtics at some point you figured that they're just going to say, okay, look, y'all ready to win and get this thing over with? Let's go. And they kind of did that in the fourth quarter.
There's like 4 teams they can do that to, and I think the Nets are definitely one. Obviously, Memphis last week was abysmal. So I think, you know, the one thing fans can, you know, you can say whatever you want, whether or not you believe in this team, or you think they're real, or you think they've got an actual chance. You can at least say that they even on the nights where they're a little sloppy, where they're maybe uncharacteristic, it still feels like they show up, bring it, and you can definitely tell that they're a team that, and Joe said it last week, that they care. And so I'm not saying that like nobody on the Nets cares or whatever, but there's a clear difference. Like there's levels to like people want to talk about tanking. The Celtics aren't tanking.
Mhm.
Like, they're not bad enough to be anywhere close to the Nets. They're not bad enough to be close to the Grizzlies. They're not bad enough to be close to, like the Charlottes and some of those teams that are Pacers right now. I don't think you're going to get a team like that. I think you are going to end up with a team that, right now they're a game above 500. They're playing the Nets again later this week. Most likely going to be 2 games above 500, right? So, and they just eked one out against the Clippers that could have gone either way at that, depending on how James Harden's shot fell. So on any given night, you could get it's a mixed bag. But I think the one thing that's consistent is that these guys are gonna leave it all out there, whatever that is that they can leave.
Yeah, and playing teams like Brooklyn puts that to the test because Brooklyn, because of just what they lack in overall talent, aside from Michael Porter Jr. and Terrence Mann, but pretty much the rest of the cast is just like, they're going to play hard, and they're going to make you play hard if you're going to beat them, because they're not going to beat you with talent; they're just going to beat you with effort, which is why the Nets only have 2 wins this year because most teams are playing them legitimately hard. But this was, again, I like the fact that the Celtics did a lot of the things that you are supposed to do against bad teams. But I don't like the fact that the Celtics made a lot of uncharacteristic mistakes that I'm not sure whether it was they simply just didn't take Brooklyn serious enough as far as Brooklyn's defense, or whether they just were sloppy and just once they figured out that this team is that good and we can beat them even with our B or C game, we'll just play our B or C game and get the win. So, mixed feelings about this one, but certainly if you're the Celtics, the fact that you're above 500 after 15 games, which I don't think a lot of people outside your locker room or outside the Celtics payroll thought they would. So they definitely have every reason to feel good about where they are right now in terms of their overall record. Could be better, but obviously 8-7, you're above 500, so you're officially kind of in the mix now as a team that could do some things.
Sneaking back into that play-in area, right? That I think a lot of people thought they might find themselves in. I mean, there was ups and downs tonight too. And one of the things we seem to talk about on the show a lot is, who should start? Should it be Walsh? Should it be Minot? Should it be Simons? It was Walsh again tonight, and if you want to talk pros and cons, I guess one of the cons would be, Walsh probably had definitely had an off game and picked up a foul seconds into this game. It just never really felt like he got into any rhythm at all. And then Mazzulla benched him straight up in the second half, somewhere in that third quarter, relatively early on.
I think it was after he picked up his 4th foul or something like that. And,
it just wasn't a sharp game for Walsh, and he actually ended up at -12 tonight, which, again, he's not in there for his offense. So 2 for 2 for 4 points, but, the 4 fouls, not really given yourself an opportunity to contribute and get into any sort of rhythm. Not that they needed this, lockdown defender to shut down anybody on Brooklyn, but there were a couple, moments tonight where Michael Porter Jr., he was hitting some outrageous shots, and he was one of the reasons why he was the biggest reason why Brooklyn even had a prayer in this game. So, that was probably one of the negatives if you wanted to look at one from this game. I don't think you're going to get, in the grand scheme of things, Sherrod, this is a game against a team that really has no business really even being in the league this season. So I don't know how much you're going to get out of it. I will say it was good to see Pritchard kind of catch fire early on. It felt like Pritchard and Simons actually at the same time. I thought they were your 2 best players in the first half of this game. But Pritchard specifically, now that it feels like that 3-point shot is falling a little bit. I don't have the numbers in front of me. That's a Bobby thing, but it just feels like whatever he changed out there is working. And I know that on the broadcast they talked about, well, he's assuming more point guard duties now than he was earlier in the season. That's one of the reasons why he just feels like he's probably more comfortable in his role again, even if it is in the starting position. Not that he wasn't in that role before, but for whatever reason, it feels like now the shots are falling. Maybe it's just that simple, less thinking, less overthinking. And obviously they're going to need Pritchard to be a guy that's going to get you up to that, right around that 20-point per game number. Again, not against a team like the Nets, but against any team that you really are going to need to win, need to beat at some point. You're going to need Brown, White, Pritchard to be getting you up 20-plus points, to get where you need to be.
Yeah, and the thing about Pritchard now with the ball more in his hands is that with the ball more in his hands, he actually has to do more thinking and do more playmaking, getting guys involved. Tonight had 22 points, 10 boards, 5 dimes. This was a really good Payton Pritchard game because he was able to really make his impact in a multitude of ways. And yes, the 3-point shot is looking a lot better. I think it was like 5 for 12 or something like that tonight. Yeah. But the thing that he does as good as anybody in the league is just, frankly, he plays significantly bigger than he is. I mean, he's one of the best players in the league at getting points around the basket. And he's not doing it with speed. He's not doing it with, floaters. He's just simply bully balling guys, which is the weirdest thing for a guy that's like maybe a whisker over 6 feet tall, if that, who's able to just get you on his hip, give you and uses his body to create space to get his shots off around the basket. He did that multiple times against Brooklyn, and almost every time the defender was a little bit bigger, but it didn't matter. And that's just understanding, having enough self-awareness to know what you can do in this particular matchup to get the shot that you want. And that's really what having that 3-point shot falling more will allow him to do, because now all of a sudden you can't just play the 3-point shot. You can't worry about him bully balling. You got to worry about both. And the minute you lean one way or the other more than you should, he's going to go the other way and take advantage of it. If you close out too tightly on the 3-point shot, he's going to simply try to bully ball his way down or beat you off the dribble. And if you definitely back off and give him the shot to take away the dribble penetration, he's just going to knock the midi down. So he is becoming a matchup problem for a lot of people. And to your point earlier about Simons, dude had 11 points on 4 shots.
I know.
That's what professional scorers do, though. They get points without having to make a point of getting lots of shots necessarily to do that. So this was a good game for him. And again, you start going down the line, they had a lot of guys that played well, but the biggest thing for them was that their big three of Derek, Jaylen, and Pritchard all played well, all had significant roles at various points in the game where they had to make plays for this team to get the win.
And Hauser had a nice stretch tonight, too, in that second half stretch there, fourth quarter, I think it was, where, defensively got the steal. I mean, again, 8 points, but 7 rebounds and 3 assists for Hauser, 2 of 5 from 3. I mean, technically, 40%. That's where you want him to be. So we'll definitely take that number there. Talk about a guy who kind of had definitely had a really slow start to this season. Start to come around here, I mean, that's kind of what you want. So again, the fact that these guys are above 500 and you can go down the line and say, well, he hasn't really played up to his level. He hasn't played up to his level. He hasn't, you can kind of almost go down the line. I would say everybody but like maybe Jaylen, as far as like the real starting lineups here, starting lineup players. Obviously, I think, you got a lot out of Keita as your center. I don't know where the ceiling is with him. I think until he gets his cardio up a little bit more, I think that's kind of looking at what you're getting. And then you've had flashes, right? You've had flashes from Minot. You've had flashes from Walsh. You've had flashes from Gonzalez, who, didn't see the court tonight. So, again, similar to last year in a way, there's some rotating going on towards the end of the depth chart or the end of the rotation there, where they're trying to figure out. Now, obviously, that's moved up. It's like, well, who wants that starting role? Who wants that 7th, 8th, 9th spot in the rotation? So I wouldn't say to this point, Shireman has been, really hot, really not really hot, but really hot and cold. So I wouldn't say to this point there's been somebody that stood out from start to where we are now. I think there's been ebbs and flows to this, and I think that's what you kind of have to expect with this roster. It's this is how it was designed, and after you get through Brown, White, Pritchard, it seems to me like it could really go anywhere. Now, again, Kate has been a guy that Joe's turned to more often than not, but after that, I mean, Simons on any given night could see the bench, right? Even if he does have a strong offensive performance. I think he had 11 points in the first half and, nothing after that, So is that more to do with him? Is that more to do with the style or what the Celtics were looking for changing in that second half? But the consistency is something that they definitely have been lacking from that part of the, roster. So, again, stuff they're going to work through. I thought Garza tonight, thought he was definitely hit and miss. I mean, I'll never question the effort from Garza. And again, 5 points. He took one shot, and he got to the line 4 times. And, plus 14. I'm not – the plus-minus tonight from the bench was really good. You had Hauser at plus 22, Garza plus 14, Mina plus 15. I'm not sure. I think there were some points tonight where Garza just looked, and he's not the most athletic guy out there, so you're going to get those moments. But he's got a motor. He's going to be a pest out there in the ways that he can, but he's not an above-the-rim player, right? He's not a guy that's going to shut you down on the defensive side of things. But I think as the season goes on, he's spelling Queta a bit, and he's giving them at least something at a position that they didn't really have much.
Yeah, and that's all you want. I mean, I constantly find myself reminding myself that look at what these guys are doing, look at what their pay is, and look at what that's relative to the whole NBA, economics. And Celtics are getting significant bang for their buck with a lot of these guys. And the thing about Luka and Queta, Luke, he's just a good reserve big. Who's that?
I think you said Luke.
I know, and then I said Luka.
Oh, okay. Because in our hearts, we're all thinking
I was trying to suppress my inner Bobby Manning there for a second. Because when you're talking about that third center,
that's it, kid.
It's hard to think about that and not think of Luke. But no, with Luka and Queta, there's going to be nights where Luka is going to give them a great lift off the bench when Queta may be okay and not great. And at least that's in him. He's a guy. Luka on any given night can go out there and get you a double-double. And no one should be surprised when that happens. But his defensive deficiencies are very problematic in terms of long-term benefits. And that's, again, the Celtics haven't ran into too many teams that have made them pay in that regard. But that's one of those issues that they're going to have to, just navigate and iron out at some point. But right now, they're getting really good play out of Queta. Luka is making the most of the minutes that he gets. And that's all you really want. I mean, you knew coming into the season that you were going to have a multi-head monster in the middle where you're going to have, Tillman and Queta and Luka all just trying to figure out how are they collectively going to give you what you need at that center position. And right now, when you look at what Queta's doing out there and you look at what Luka's doing out there, they're probably the two guys that are going to give you as close as you're going to get to a serviceable big this season. So this was, like I said, a lot of good things that the Celtics should feel good about with this one. And we'll see if they can just continue to build off of that against seeing this Brooklyn team again on Friday in a game that they should win that one even more convincingly with it being back at the TD Garden. Yeah.
Celtics are feeling good. We're feeling good too, Sherrod. Just in case, everybody watching isn't aware, the Garden Report is moving, Sherrod. Not moving the way you think. But if you're watching this show on Celtics All Access's YouTube channel, head over to our main channel, CLNS Media, and subscribe there as well. Soon, CLNS Media's channel will be the exclusive YouTube home of the Garden Report postgame show. Right now, some people might know this, but we go live on the Celtics All Access YouTube channel, and we go live on the CLNS main YouTube. We're gonna cut the cord on that. We're not getting rid of the channel, but our show, Sherrod, is going to air exclusively on the main CLNS YouTube channel. That's where, honestly, I think the majority of our subscribers are on. But we've really built up this Celtics page over the years, and that's going to continue to be an unbelievable place to get all your Celtics content, post game, pre-game, a number of different podcasts and exclusive interviews and content like that. But our Garden Report, where I call home, Sherrod, and where you call home, we're going to be on the main page. So if you're subscribed to the main page, and you should be, because the Patriots are going off right now. The Red Sox are going to have a great, hopefully, knock on wood, off season and really hopefully be a contender going into next year. And the Bruins are I don't know what the Bruins are, but I like it. I like what I'm seeing out of the Bruins. I think we're all a little bit surprised by the run that they've been on. And so head over to that main page for all the Boston content and even more so than just that. But our show is going to be going live there eventually, exclusively there. And so we really want to subscribe to both channels. So I think Bobby Manning, speaking of subscribe, we're all subscribing to Bobby Manning. I'm buying on Bobby. He is ready to go. Thumbs up. We're going to bring him in, Amit, to the show here. Live from Brooklyn. Where Brooklyn at, Bobby?
I
Bobby,
was scared, Jimmy. I was really scared.
Bobby, you're a rap guy, though. You're a rap guy. I know you're a rap guy. Are you East Coast or are you West Coast? Are you Brooklyn or are you LA?
I got to go East Coast. Boston,
Okay,
New
good
York,
answer.
as far as the rap scene goes, it's pretty connected. I feel like they love
Okay.
Biggie in Boston and
Yeah.
J. Cole and, a lot of interchange there. It's a lot of crossover. They love Jadakiss and Ja Rule
Jay-Z?
in Boston. Jay-Z. Always playing
Okay.
Jay-Z on the radio in Boston. So I'd love to meet
I think
Jay-Z. I'm gonna have to.
Jay-Z might be
gonna have
my
to work on
Jay-Z might be my all-time favorite rapper now. I don't really have I'm not like gonna go toe-to-toe with anybody on that, but I'm a
That's mine
Blueprint
too.
guy. I'm a Blueprint guy through and through. So
How about you, Sherrod? Who's the GOAT?
J. Cole. J. Cole.
J. Cole.
Big J. Cole
Whoa.
wow.
fan. Big J. Cole fan.
Okay. I still love Tupac though. Don't get me wrong. I'm gonna go with Jay-Z in this. But anyways, let's get to the game. Bobby, you were there. This was like one of those games where we were all kind of sitting on our hands for a bit because we didn't want to. No one wants to be that team to
Well, let me
take the
start
L's in the
there.
net. Yeah.
Because remember what I said the other day? 0% chance the Celtics will lose these games. That's what I said it at. So when they went down by 10 early, I'm
Noah
sitting
was
there.
giving you
I'm
a
sweating.
dirty look.
Noah's giving a dirty look. It was scary for a minute. They were scary throughout, right? This is a tough game to win.
And we said if they lost, you were going to be on the apology cam as soon as
I wasn't even going to be here. I think I'd
you
have to
escaped it.
take this one off because everyone was saying Jinx, and it's going to be tough Friday, right? That was what I expected. It'd be back-to-back games against the same team. Always seemed to be difficult, but as the afternoon went on, I did start getting worried because I think Jordan said this morning, like, we're prepared for a lot of threes, which sometimes can send things haywire. That was the story early this game. That's where hitting all their threes, getting a lot up. And then the fact that they won by like 17 on Sunday had me worried too, because maybe that carries over. They were tough. I thought they forced the Celtics to change their lineups throughout, look for something that worked here. There were a lot of rotations for Boston that just didn't have it in this game. And that's something Joe talked about after too. Like, can you tell on a given night who's going to be the guy, who isn't? And he said you kind of can, just based off what you need against a certain opponent here. And obviously tonight it was Sam, after they went through Jordan, who'd started again, and Josh, who had some moments but wasn't super effective. And then they settle on, ironically, the same lineup with Garza at center and Sam at the 4 or 3, whatever you want to call it, that blew that game against Detroit on the boards. It was a pretty big rebounding meltdown with those 5 on the floor against the Pistons in that third game of the year. So they came through late tonight. Sam was awesome, and he needed that, right? He's been struggling just about as much as anybody since moving to that bench. Some good stuff from Simons here tonight as well. This was a good bench game again. The bench came through and saved the starters, who were pretty sluggish.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, we talked briefly about the bench and just the fact that you got that second half kind of jolt from Hauser there, which was huge. We got that turnover that kind of changed the momentum in the way.
Play of the game, Joe called it. I felt that way too. That was critical. He extended the lead a little bit, then he hits a 3 right after. I think it was like a 1 or 2 point game at that point.
Yep.
So big play by him, and a defensive play at that, right?
Yeah, I know, exactly. And then defense turning into offense. Now, sticking with the bench for a second,
at the time.
I couldn't get a read on Garza's game tonight. I mean, overall, I thought he played well. I thought at first a little Garza-esque. He's he's a little on the clumsier side, I guess, out there, fumbling in the ball, a couple out of bounds issues, but he's giving them good. He's giving them good wind. I think he's spelling Keita on nights where Keita doesn't necessarily seem to have it completely, and I think they're making do with kind of what they have here at that position as best they can.
For sure, and they were searching there too, right? Keita's in foul trouble. He gets the early hook in the third. They tried Garza, and I agree. He was active in this game. That's how I described it when we were talking up on press row. Active, but not super effective. Like, he had his hands on a lot of offensive rebounds. They were hitting him on the roll a lot, and it didn't turn into much. So he gave them some solid minutes out there. I'd say, I mean, would he finish? I wouldn't be surprised if it was like a +0. That's what it felt
No,
like.
it was a +15. That's why I couldn't get a good read
okay.
on it. But like,
okay, yeah, I mean the bench had the
14,
big
sorry.
push, right? So
Yeah,
he was
exactly.
probably out there for a lot of those Hauser minutes down the stretch that
Yeah.
turned that around. But I thought his minutes were active. Only one shot. They missed him a lot or threw him bad passes, so a lot of those weren't his fault. But the Nets were super active tonight. I thought they blitzed. Joe said they played up. They got in the passing lane, so they were pretty prepared for what the Celtics were trying to do. It was a good game plan by them to try to disrupt what Boston was doing. I think they had a good sense that the Celtics are trying to win the turnover battle every night, so we're gonna have to turn things up and try to push that back against them. And I thought they really frustrated Jaylen. I thought they made it difficult to get the entry passes inside. There was one awful Simons turnover where they were trying to cue something up for Garza, and Simons just tossed it right to the guy in front of Garza.
Yeah.
So this is the first.
He can't help himself, Sherrod. He really can't. Bobby cannot help himself.
Everybody turned it over tonight,
If
even
there's
Pritchard.
but only one guy gets the crown turnover from Bobby.
I mentioned Jaylen's. Jaylen had 8, right?
We had 8. It's hard not to mention it.
Yeah, it is. It's hard.
So
yeah, what do you feel like was up with him tonight, Sherrod? The other thing I noticed too: 10 first half minutes, 22 in the second half. Joe said they were trying to disperse it for the second. I feel like he just didn't like the way Jaylen was playing in the first half.
No, I think that was part of it, but I think Joe is, again, he's trying to figure out how can I get the most out of these guys when they're on the floor. And Joe is very much in experimentation mode right now. I think he's searching for that lineup that he's going to feel good about. And some days I think he feels better, certainly better than he does others. Jaylen, I didn't think was as impactful as he needed to be.
Well, they had Simons and Pritchard going well in that first half,
right.
And it's hard to have them both in there sometimes. So I think he was just rolling with that, and yeah, I don't think Jaylen really did anything to He kind of had a hot start. I think he had the first basket or first couple of baskets for the Celtics, but
yeah, he was getting into the mid-range there. Then he started missing those a little bit. It just felt like they were knocking him off his dribble. When he tried to get to that spot, you could see some guys creeping over to him and to try to throw some extra bodies at him. So again, they were pretty prepared for his tendencies. They're pretty prepared for what a lot of the Celtics were trying to do here. So certainly a more disruptive effort, tougher opposition than I expected to see from Brooklyn given their record here.
Why don't we hear from Joe, since we do have some post game from Joe, and then we'll chat a little bit about what he had to say. I know you were there for that, Bobby, so we'll get your take on what you had to say after the game. Amit, you want to toss Joe up? There you go.
A lot of times the stress on defense, but he forced 7 turnovers, holding 14 points. What did you do defensively?
Yeah, I thought we got good looks in that stretch. Just thought we missed a couple of them. But like you said, it didn't, I thought the difference in the game was that the second half defense and our offensive execution, you take a look at the tale of two halves and really how the game's connected. So they had 25 points in transition and we had 12 first half turnovers. And so, when you give them that, they're a good team and they beat you on it. We only had 8 turnovers in the second half. Did a much better job in that department, kept them out of transition, and we were able to execute.
You talked about players not being defined by one trait. Felt like Sam was a good example of that tonight. What did you see from him overall?
Yeah, I mean, he's great, and it's a credit to him. And we all know that he's been in a little bit of a shooting slump, but he's not defined by that. And I thought his defense was great. I thought his rebounding was really good, and he had a big-time steal at half court that I thought kind of changed the game. So it's a credit to him, just continuing to chip away at it.
Kind of on that note, Sam's used to being in the rotation and kind of playing similar minutes. He played 7 minutes last game and came tonight. He closed with him. How have you seen him handle those fluctuations? And in general, as a coach, is it hard to see some nights you have to go with one guy and that guy plays 5 minutes? How does it just kind of play out for him? Yeah, I mean, he's handled it well. I think at the end of the day, we all have an understanding of the type of team we have. We said it before the year. We have a lot of depth. When everyone's at their best, we can go to different things. And like you said, we finished with him tonight. A couple nights ago, we finished with a different lineup. You've seen him handle it just by being positive, by working hard, and having an understanding of it. So it's a credit to him, and it's a credit to the guys. At the end of the day, we got 12, 13 guys that could really impact winning. I think everyone on the roster has helped us win a game or get us, be in the game, and so that's important. And he's handled it really well, and it kind of showed tonight.
Who'd you see?
Joe, it sounded like you guys had the crowd on your side for a lot of the night. What does it do for the team's confidence, if anything, to have that sort of vocal support even
Crowd
on the road?
question.
I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, it's
Love
one
the
thing. I
fans.
think that just really says
Joe?
it's a testament to the Celtics fans.
Really
The
is this team.
responsibility that we have, regardless of where we play, to carry that name forward. That's really what it's about.
What was the thinking behind the Jaylen rotation, 10 in the first half, and then he was able to give you 22 second half, get to the free throw line? What were you looking for in terms of his minute distribution?
Yeah, he played well. I mean, take a look at what he did in the second half for us. 9 for 19, had 23 at the end of the third. I thought, but he had a huge offensive rebound there, crashing from the corner, which got us that Payton 3 in the corner. So, he played well. We wanted to disperse the minutes. We wanted to make sure we were in good shape heading into halftime. And, he handled it great, and I thought he had a great second half.
Joe, outside of that little Daron Sharp run in the last couple minutes, they only had one field goal, and that's in the fourth quarter. I know you mentioned you felt like it was a tale of two halves. In that fourth quarter in particular, what do you think went right for you guys that wasn't going on, that helped you close out this one?
To start, we didn't turn the ball over, so they weren't able to get out in transition. Which I said we had 12 in the first half, so they had 25 points in transition. I mean, I don't know how many points they had off our turnovers, but there had to be a correlation there. So it started there, we didn't turn it over. Once we got into a 5-on-5, we took away a couple of the things that they do really well in the half court, and we held them to one shot. So, I still think they crushed us, on the shot margin, but I thought we did a better job in the second half of kind of getting that up with the turnovers and limiting them to one shot, and then us getting some rebounds.
Was there anything particular you saw with the turnovers, especially in the first half, or was it just
No, they did a good job of blitzing and being up, and we made some good reads, but they test you. You got to do it all the time, So if you have to throw, 50 passes, you got to be able to be great on 48 to 50 of them, and we just weren't on some of those, and so it just left us for an area to get better.
Coach, about Luka Garza's rebounding. In general, offensive rebounding looks great. I mean, he has, during the season, I guess 1 per 6 minutes, which is like great. Defensively, however, it seems like he just blocks people out and he doesn't get this.
Yeah, he does a good job of that. I think he had a couple good ones tonight. He just does a good job with leverage. He's got good leverage, gets good positioning. Yeah, does a good job of reading where the miss is going, and he's kind of in the right spot there. So, I think it's something that he pays attention to and he works hard at. But you see, he has a great reaction to the ball, has good leverage.
And as far as his way back in college, and whenever he was getting a chance in the NBA to play, charges taken.
Who's this?
Is
Gar's
that
dad?
something that you think contributed to Celtics signing him?
I mean, what contributed to us signing him is kind of what he's been for us, which is his effort, his care factor, his competitive character, and his willingness to be a great teammate and do whatever it takes to win.
What have you thought of the start of Baylor's season?
Like I said, he's given us what we needed. We got multiple guys that can impact the game each and every night. He's got a great attitude, works at it every day, building trust with him. And, I think in the times that we've called on him, he's delivered. Just got to keep getting better.
Joe, you mentioned the depth throughout the season. Just felt like tonight was a good reflection of that. Just what do you think of the collective effort?
Yeah, again, guys being able to do different things. I thought Ant was more aggressive tonight. I thought Jaylen was great in the second half, but I thought, like I said, I think Josh played better. I think Baylor played better. I think Sam played better. So it's just getting guys, just as consistent as possible in the roles we need them to, and picking each other up when they're not.
Because you have so many options, does it feel like within a few minutes you can tell, okay, tonight this guy has it, like he has the energy, and I'm just going to go with him, and it doesn't matter what's happened in the past?
It's not necessarily energy. It's just you can just tell. I mean, we got guys that can bring different things to the game. So I think just that flexibility and that, like I said, that depth we have to take advantage of as a team. I think it gives us the best chance to win every night, be able to go to different stuff, gives us the best chance to be successful over the long run, and the guys are doing a good job of it.
Thank you, Joe.
Thanks, sir.
Players will be in the
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you, Joe. All right, so there you have it with Joe. We lost Bobby. We don't know where Bobby went. He's running around the streets of Brooklyn.
Looking for Luke.
Yeah, he ain't going to find Luke in Brooklyn, but we'll get him back on here, and I think Noah might jump on too, hopefully. They're wrapping up the player post-games press conferences, but sure, a couple interesting nuggets out of that press conference. The one that I guess I'm remembering the most is the last one, maybe because it's just how my brain works, but seems like Joe basically just admitted that, like, and we kind of saw this and see this all the time, he's quick to give the hook to some of those guys, and you may not see him again after that. And it felt like that was Jordan Walsh tonight. I mean, I'm not saying that he looked at Jordan Walsh and said, "You don't have it," and yanked him, but you could probably connect the dots and think that that could possibly be how he felt, because, I mean, he answered Noah's question, and she basically said, can you tell early on if a guy has it? And he said, yeah. And if they have it, he'll go back to them. And if he doesn't think they have it, well, he's got like 4 guys that are kind of just like the next guy, waiting to, give it a crack, right? Whether it's, I mean, the list: Walsh, Shireman, Gonzalez, Minot. There's probably a couple
Sam in
others
there as well.
Yeah, Sam, I think, probably has more of the benefit of the doubt there, but sure. He's not really willing to let these guys like play through it, as we've seen in previous seasons with like the proven vets. As we'd see him go 10 minutes into a quarter without calling a timeout, even if the guys are struggling the whole way through, because they're, Jaylen, Jason, Drew, KP, and, Al, right? So like, what do they really need to prove other than they just need to work their way through things? In this case, Jordan Walsh doesn't get that benefit of the doubt, right? Baylor Shireman doesn't get that benefit of the doubt. These guys need to know that when the ball is tipped, it's go time, right? There's no easing into this thing. And maybe that's, and I'm the one guy that probably fits this bill perfectly is Simons.
Yeah.
We've been pretty vocal on this show about the way that Joe treats Anfernee Simons out there in the court at times, and how he could go from 15 points in 5 minutes to finding the bench, right? Why that is, only Joe could answer that. But if Joe sees something, or if he doesn't feel like Simons, I'm just saying Simons for example, but I think there probably are some examples. He doesn't feel like Simons is bringing it, or if he doesn't feel like he's engaged enough in that moment, he has no qualms about telling him to hit the pine, and somebody else is going to take a stab at it. That seems to be the mentality.
It is,
and Walsh tonight was that guy. Walsh doesn't give you anything on offense. Maybe once in a while a prayer goes up for 3, but if he doesn't give you that thing, which is intensity on defense and shut down defense and all that stuff, see you later. That's how Joe's going to treat it.
Yeah. And he's like a lot of young players. He's trying to figure out exactly, how do you do that? How do you be consistent when your minutes may not be consistent?
We'll bring Bobby in too, by the way, since he's back. But come on, you can continue, Sherrod.
But that's the challenge. I mean, it's just figuring out how do you be consistent and get guys to play consistent off your bench when they know they're not going to get consistent minutes. And it's tonight Jordan certainly was not one of his best hours on the floor, but he picked up 4 fouls, and there are other guys that kind of had some things going on. And I think to me, that's the blessing and burden of this team, where you can have guys that you can turn to in that supporting cast role who can give you a great lift for 10 or 15 minutes tonight, and they may not see the court for another 2 or 3 games. And as a player, you often wonder, how are they staying locked in mentally when the minutes are just going to steadily fluctuate the way they are? So those are some of the things that I think the Celtics, they really, they're going to be challenged by as we go deeper and deeper into the season, and figuring out how to really manage that kind of stuff.
I want to go to Bobby since he jumped back on. Before I do, let's talk briefly about our good friends at Prize Picks. And Bobby, then I want to jump to you. But first, yes, folks, it's basketball season. The Celtics are 8-7 now, above 500. But don't sleep on the Patriots. Don't sleep on, football season and the fact that we might have a playoff run here. What only way to make it a little bit more fun than it already has been, including Prize Picks in the mix. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every day, Sherrod, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this basketball season on Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. We talked about how this Patriots season is gone, and I'm going more on Drake May and the fact that they got a game coming up against the Bengals, and it seems like the Bengals might be without their offensive threat. We'll see. But you download Prize Picks and use the code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. I know that I've had some pretty good luck using it, and it just makes the games a little bit more fun to watch. It just adds a little something to it. They offer injury reboots as well. So especially in football, where guys are dropping like flies out there on the field, if one of your players leaves the game in the first or at some point, you can get that credited back, and that might not count against your winnings, right? Same thing with basketball. Guy goes down in the first half, boom, it's not going to count against you. So that's the great thing about Prize Picks. They put the users first. So all the withdrawals are fast and secure. Prize Picks offers Venmo, Apple Pay, MasterCard, and more for quick and easy deposits into your account this football season, this basketball season. But download Prize Picks app today. Use the code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. And don't forget, guys, they offer stacks, meaning you can pick 3 players up to 3 times in the same lineup. Pick more on 3 different stats of that player or less if you're a hater. And now you can pick all 3 of them in the same lineup only on Prize Picks. Anyways, Bobby, I'm more on Bobby right now. I need more Bobby. So, Bobby, you just jumped out, popped in for Pritchard, popped in, I think, for Jaylen Brown. It sounds to me like Jaylen Brown went pretty quickly.
I thought that was
either of those 2 guys.
I'm glad you said that, because I do think that was pretty revelatory to what we saw from Jaylen tonight. He just didn't look super energetic. Obviously, we talked about the shorter first half stint there. It does seem like he was a little under the weather.
Is that what you guys
talked for a couple? Yeah, only talked for a couple minutes after this one. I think that was the reason why. So, again, he's pushing through, right? Playing, not missing a game with illness like a lot of guys do there. So credit him for that. And he did turn this game around in a big way in the second half. You saw Joe talk about that when I asked about the minute distribution there, and he said it was dispersing the minutes. I'm sure they were just trying to save him for when it mattered most, given his status tonight and the fact that he wasn't super effective in the first half. But he powered through, and I think this is important.
9 of 19. I mean, another efficient game, and 7 3-point attempts, a little bit higher than what we've seen, I think, as of late. But he got to the line.
But some decisive ones in that second half. Huge shots from behind the arc for him, and to give them this level of productivity in a night where they didn't have it across the board in a lot of different cases offensively, I thought was important. And the big factor for them, and we keep talking about it, Jimmy, just being available this year. I mean, you look across the league, every day there's another big injury. Every day someone's missing a game. And this team, their superpower to this point has been availability. Jalen's played in every game. Pritchard's played in every game. White. And we're 14 games in now? That's pretty good. Like, this has probably been the most durable team in the league so far. And more recently, it's Jaylen with this illness. Beginning of the year, it's Jaylen with the hamstring, playing through that, even on the back-to-back where it looks like they had him lined up after. Remember 0-3, Jimmy? It looked like they had him lined up in New Orleans for a night off. They could have been 0-4 if he misses that game, but he just played and got them that first win, and here they are above 500 a couple weeks later. So credit to him. I didn't love the way he played, but, knowing the circumstances here, it's huge that he showed up for this game.
Is it worth playing his post game, or should we just play like Hauser instead? I don't really want to play both.
I want to hear from Hauser after a big game. He's been struggling for a little while.
Okay, let's listen to Hauser. Jaylen, get well soon. Maybe we'll see you Friday. You got a couple days to shake the cold. I don't know if Amit's going to toss it up. I'll do it.
Particularly that fourth quarter, one field goal before that Daron Sharp run. What changed for you guys from the first half to the second half?
Oh, we definitely took care of the ball a lot better, and that led to better offense, and got a lot of steals. It felt like we were way more active on defense, which led to easy buckets on the offensive end, which kind of opened up a lot of things for us. And then, I think overall it just started on the defensive end, though.
And then what sparked it for you?
For me?
Yeah, in the fourth.
Oh, I mean, I don't know, just playing hard, try to be at the right place, right time, and communicate, talk, just play hard, and usually a lot of times good things work out for you if you're giving all your effort.
Sam, Joe's constantly talking about how players are defined by more than just one trait. Felt like you were a good example of that tonight. Even when you're not shooting well, how important is it to just focus on your ability to impact the game in more ways?
Yeah, I mean, just be a basketball player, I guess, at the end of the day. You know, you might be here for a specific trait, and you might be really good at it, but how can you impact your team in a different way when that trait's not, you know, to its normal standard? So, yeah, I guess just be a basketball player.
Sam, is it hard to have inconsistent minutes? Like you played 7 minutes last game, you close out, played 22 tonight, and a lot of you guys have been in that position. How do you handle that? And is it something that you guys kind of all understand is just the plan for this year and just kind of roll with the punches?
Yeah, of course it's hard, but you kind of just have to, like you said, roll with the punches and take advantage of the time you are out there and still try to help the team win and try to be external and don't be internal. It's hard in the moment.
What do you mean by that?
What does that mean? Yeah.
Like, don't think about yourself. Think about the team first. If you're thinking about yourself, then your head's not in the right place. And yeah, I mean, it's going to be a lot of that this year. I feel like just changing lineups, rotations, just trying to figure out what works. And the other game, a different lineup was working, so you roll with that, and that's cool. You just have to trust it. And then like tonight, we played a whole different lineup for a good chunk of that third quarter that maybe hasn't played together a lot, and it worked, so you just roll with it. So, yeah, just making the most of the time you're out there.
Is that like a mantra you guys have, or just go with that?
I mean, he's kind of preached it like everybody's going to play this year. Just got to be ready. You just never know when your number's going to be called.
Has anything felt different about the way you're getting to your three-point shots this year within the flow of the new offense?
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit. I mean, it's a whole new offense. We got a lot of new faces. We're 14 games in, 15 games in, still trying to get used to playing with each other a little bit. And sometimes you're getting different shots, sometimes you're getting the same looks. And I think all of us have kind of battled a little slump this year at some point.
All right, that was Sam Hauser.
Tough night. That's Celtics Nets, right?
Yeah.
But we do a show anyway.
The game wasn't the most entertaining, and the post game isn't that much better. But it was interesting to hear a couple of things that Hauser had to say. Let's bring Noah in to get her take on this game. And she was in there for Hauser. We heard her ask a couple questions there. Noah, welcome in. I guess
I was holding court for Hauser. I couldn't get anything in with anybody else, but at least I asked 11 questions about his mantra.
At least somebody showed up to ask questions tonight. What was your take from? I guess we'll start with Hauser. It seems like he was kind of like, I mean, if we do play the Brownie Award later, which we might, I have a feeling his name might come up. So give us your take on his performance tonight. I guess that second half. And I thought it was interesting. You know, somebody, I think it was you, asked him how difficult it was or how difficult it has been not knowing your role this year. And I thought his answer was pretty interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think Hauser's been one of the interesting cases for this year because he doesn't fit into this defensive system in the same way that guys like Josh Minot and Ugo and Jordan do, because he's not a natural. I mean, he's obviously a great athlete. He's in the NBA, and he kind of joked at the end of his presser, like, I'm not a great athlete, but he's that's not going to be his edge on the floor, right? And I think last year's system worked better for him because he held his own defensively, but it wasn't a lot of like full court pressure and things like that. He's also not getting the same kinds of looks that he was getting last year for the most part. But a night like tonight, he was one of the pivotal players in the win. And I think at one point in the fourth quarter, I was like, okay, obviously I have to write about Sam Hauser for my post-game story because I feel like he was the story tonight. And so what it kind of comes down to me is that it's going to be a different player every night. We've really realized that it's so different from the last few years of covering this team. And even Sam, who I don't think the system is like made for him, he can still thrive in it. And he made big plays. I asked him about the tip out rebound, something that I think he does a ton of, that doesn't show up in the box score, that he doesn't get a lot of credit for, but it does create kind of extra possessions. And he hit a few threes that I felt were just like the basketball gods rewarding him for his hustle and his effort. So it's interesting because I don't know if you guys played Joe, but I asked Joe, like, how do you know which guy you're going to be going with, because it really does feel right now like every single night a different guy in that wing position could close out the game. Could be Jordan, it could be Baylor, it could be Sam, could be Ugo. Ugo has gotten 2 DNPs now, but like it really could be anybody. And I'm sure it's hard for those players, but it's also kind of an advantage because if Jordan doesn't have it tonight, Joe can just turn away from him. And that's not a normal position as an NBA coach where it's like you have your guys and you play those guys. Like this is a very interesting dynamic and it's very unusual.
Bobby, thoughts on
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
This is gonna be the debate all year, right? Like, is this a strength? Is it a hindrance on this roster? And I, from the start, was skeptical to the notion that it's a strength because, again, you're going into these games, you have a plan, you have to divert from that, and you have to adjust on the fly. Like, that was a big reason. Last game, the stretches were inconsistent, and in this game, you're searching throughout the whole middle portion of the game to figure out, like, what's the lineup going to be tonight? You asked Noah a good question to Joe about, like, do you know? And
wow,
he said,
you so much.
We actually talked about it earlier in the show, too.
Huge
Wow,
praise for that question. But I found his answer interesting because he said, yes, you know right away. Do they know right away?
I think so. I mean, he said it wasn't
They knew it
necessarily
was Sam's night tonight?
No, I just think he knew it wasn't Walsh's night.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. So, yeah, it's not like it's like Sam 2 minutes in, it's like Sam's closing tonight. But I think he has like 4 or 5 guys that feel somewhat interchangeable in the rotation. And to his credit, I don't know if you guys talked about this yet, but Jaylen Brown played 10 first half minutes. And at halftime, Celtics fans were asking me, is he hurt? Is he sick? Can you go check? Like, I'm worried. Like, what happened to Jaylen? And I think he just wasn't playing well. And I was thinking to myself, this is really unusual. He's on pace to play 20 minutes. Obviously, he ends up playing 32. So he played 22 minutes in the, did he only play 29 minutes tonight? Never mind. Well, he played the majority of the second half.
Right.
And he said, I was just playing bad. Like, so Joe told me, like, he said I was playing like shit. Like that's in his words. And so I don't know that last year Jaylen would have gotten pulled if he wasn't playing well in the first half. 32. Okay. That's what I thought. Yeah. So to me, like, there's just a level of, it's not your night. Like, there's no attachment to anything. And overall, I think it's going to serve them well. Like, how many times have we seen guys just not have it, but the coach kind of has to keep going with them because they're the guy that makes all the money or the guy that is the all-star or whatever. And this is just like unique.
The last 2 years. We've seen it the last 2 years.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. Like, I do think the notion of that being a strength is a little overrated or overstated by Joe, but I will give him credit in terms of his ability to make the change quickly on the fly, figure it out by the end of the game, and then more or less close with the right group. And I don't know, was tonight a crunch time victory? I can't even keep track of that. Like, it's all about whether it starts in that, 500 range. But the fact that they've lost in a lot of those circumstances does make me say, all right, they're not putting the exact ideal group out there to close some of these games. So again, I think there's some truth to it. I think they've made the best of it. But I don't think it's something that is throwing off their opponents necessarily, or is a case where these guys are hugely impactful. There's been a couple circumstances where Walsh or Ugo or maybe even Garza down the stretch are giving them like that interchangeable, unpredictable impact. Hauser tonight, certainly, like, I'll give them credit on that. But I think it's been a mixed bag. I do think there's been some nights where the rotations have cost them. There's been some nights where the rotations have benefited them. And that's part of figuring it out, right? Like, that was never not going to be the case this year where they, had something set and we're just going to roll with it. It looked like maybe that would have been the case with Minot. But here they are again. We thought even this morning, like, we were on Jordan Walsh savior, storyline, and second half.
Sound. You had the sound too. You had the interview.
Like, is that already, like, are we sitting here today saying that might already be over after this Hauser development?
I think that if we want to be like the best analysts we can as it relates to this team right now, we just can't overreact to a young guy having a couple of good games and then bury another young guy because they had a couple of bad games. Like, Josh Minot is not bad now, and he wasn't the greatest player on earth a week and a half ago. And Jordan Walsh was not out of the NBA and going to China a week and a half ago, as a lot of NBA fans on Twitter, Celtics fans on Twitter were saying. And he's not like the savior of the future Celtics defense now. Like, there's a reason why these guys are young and unproven. It's like they're young and unproven, and it's going to reflect in their play at times.
But they're the ones making those switches. Like, who do you think will start on Friday now after this?
Maybe Sam. I don't know. I mean, right now it's been like literally the most recent guy to have played well gets the start.
That's what I'm saying. It's not us. It's them.
Well, I think you made a good point, Bobby. I was going to say the same thing. I was going to say something similar. Is that? Sorry, Noah. Go on.
No, go.
I was going to say something similar, Bobby. It's like, are we overreacting or are we just reacting to what Joe's doing? Because I mean, who's to say he's? I mean, and if that's the case, then is Joe overreacting by completely benching Gonzalez? Should Gonzalez get some burn?
I think Ugo's dealing with an ankle thing. Joe would never say, but I think that if you look at when his minutes dropped, that ankle was like, I saw him, that was in Philly. He walked past me in the locker room. That right after that, he was limping, his ankle swollen. So I think that's part of it, but we'll never get that confirmed.
What would be the reason to not just say he's dealing with an ankle injury?
Because
what are we?
This is just the life that we lead, covering the Celtics. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's not that. I'll try to do.
I agree with you, Noah.
I just my intuition. That's speculation. Not
fine. Okay, then Josh Minot or whoever. Pick Baylor Shireman, for example. I mean, if you feel like these guys, I understand when a guy's not playing well that you kind of maybe go with somebody else, but we've seen these guys completely get dogged in a way. So in that sense, you could argue that Joe Mazzulla is overreacting if fans are overreacting to the player not playing for a game or two. Well, why isn't he playing at all? I understand that they haven't earned the playing time. And so Joe might give them the quick hook and say, I'm going to go with this guy tonight. Sure. And I know that, a week or so ago, John was debating whether or not Simons should be in that category. He doesn't think he should be. I don't think he should be either. I think Simons has done enough in this league that, I don't know if Joe Mazzulla can say, oh, he doesn't have it tonight. He's, we're going to sit him, even though he's deep down. We all know that Simons is capable of giving you 30.
Yeah.
If given the opportunity.
This is the question we have right now. And we had the same exact debate last game, Noah. Yes, these decisions are leading to wins. And I think that's Joe's mindset right now is how can we win every single game, every single night? And I'll take whatever measure it takes to get to that point. And listen, I don't think anyone's going to complain about that. Like if they have a great season and this is the way they do it by switching up the lineups and rotations almost every night, I don't think people will be pissed about that. But does it impact each young player's individual ability to carve out their role, play through some things, and have consistent time? Like, what if Walsh after this game completely, not to say that's going to happen, but what if he does completely fall out of the rotation after this game?
Then I'll have to re-earn it. Like, here's the thing.
Walsh should be used to not playing.
Right.
I mean, we can say like it would be nice and tidy if they had their 9-man rotation and then they had the 4 or 5 guys that are just cooked from day one and they're out of the rotation. Like that would be easy to cover. It would be easy for us to predict who's going to play. But is that really better? Like in the past, the reason there have been 4 or 5 guys that don't play is because those guys are worse than the 9 guys in the rotation. But I don't know that we really have that right now. So it's going to keep cycling through, like kind of like a high school basketball team where it's like you're not, or some high school basketball teams, but like you're not necessarily buried. It's just depending on the matchup, depending on the night. I mean, we've seen it. Some nights Jordan's looked like a much better player than Josh, and some nights Josh has looked like a much better player.
But does that lend itself to development? That's my question.
I mean, you can either choose to say this is the year of Jordan and Jordan's our future, so we're going to play him every single night and play through his mistakes. But then would that be fair to Baylor? Would that be fair to Josh? There's not an easy answer here. If there were 7 guys on the court at all times, you could invest in all of their development together, but there's not. So I think it's only fair to just put the guy out that's earning those minutes. And maybe right now it's really difficult to be pulled from the starting lineup after 9 games, and Josh is like having to figure that out. But maybe in game 65, he will have the experience of the ebbs and flows of a season, and that's probably going to be a big part of his development as a professional too. So I do think Josh looked a little rattled when he got moved to the bench, but he looked a lot better tonight. And maybe in the long run, that's like the best thing that could have happened to him. Instead of just saying, well, Josh is our starter, we're going to stick with him even if he's not playing with all the energy or kind of the best rebounding or whatever else it might be.
Sherrod, is there somebody who's stood out to you above the pack, when it comes to the Walshes, the Minots, the Hugos, the Baylors of the Celtics here? Is there somebody that you would, if you're Joe and you got to put, game on the line or one game, winner take all, who's that fifth starter type situation? Has anybody emerged really?
No, because there's a reason why these guys have been at the end of the bench or not playing. And the reason for that more than anything else, because there's a multitude of reasons, but the biggest reason is consistency. It's the one thing that these players have shown an inability to do. That's why they're in and out of the lineup as if this is musical chairs, the Celtics NBA starting five version of that. And you look at when Josh Minot was starting, we loved the things that he was doing. Hauser too, right? But again, they did enough to remind you why they're in that position. Well, but the flip side to that, they do enough to remind you why that's not their day in, day out job. That they're doing it basically because Joe Mazzulla is having almost like a casting call for starter number 5. And Hauser got the first audition. Did some good things, didn't do some good things. Next, Minot did some good things, didn't do some good things. And now Jordan is getting an opportunity. The one difference, though, with Jordan is that Jordan has a skill that, and when I talked about this before, that's different than pretty much everyone else on the team. And that is the ability to make life at least a little uncomfortable for super quick guards. He's the only one. And when you look at the things that Josh Minot does, you can kind of cut and paste, and patch that together from other guys. And when you look at the things that Hauser does as a shot maker, you got Payton Pritchard, who does a lot of the same things, not as well as Sam, but not that far removed. But when you talk about defending really quick guards, everyone on this team gets toasted, other than Jordan. And again,
I'm glad you say that because we talked to Jordan this morning and he said something interesting about how he ended up getting more minutes here potentially, saying that he and Jaylen were talking on the plane and Jaylen wanted to find someone who could defend with pressure, do those things against guards. And it sounded like we didn't get to follow up with Jaylen and Joe didn't say a ton about it pregame, but it sounded like Jaylen actually might have went to Joe and been like, we need Jordan for this stuff here. And he's done a great job with it. Right. So I feel like I want to see that dynamic because it's been a great one, right, over the last week or so here continue. Obviously it wasn't the case tonight where that was what they needed, but I would like to see him get another chance on Friday. And just based off this conversation now, I am actually with you. I think Joe's mindset is look at what Hauser did tonight. He really battled. He's been been a stand-up professional through this benching, and he's had some ups and downs in minutes and shooting and all this, but he came through tonight. And since he did that, I'm going to reward him for it on Friday and start him. That's where I feel like that goes. And again, that's not the wrong decision here necessarily. It might be the right thing for this team at this moment. So no one gets complacent and no one takes for granted that they're starting necessarily. But I just feel like that's such a quick hook on Walsh. One game where he's a little down and all of a sudden he's back on the, not that he can't impact off the bench, but it's a quick hook in my mind.
Yeah, and I think the key is how do you respond to a quick hook if that's what you get? I don't think Josh responded as best as he could. I mean, there could have been other things going on, but like he did struggle a little bit. But Jordan could come in next game and the second he checks in, play the same defense that earned him those 3 starts. And then I think you're right back in it. So like they deal with, NBA players deal with more adversity than getting their minutes pulled. Like this is a guy who wants to one day make a big defensive play in a final series, right? Like that's the aspiration here. So in that standpoint, like I think this is a psychological like experience that is challenging and it might be a little deflating at times, but you're kind of like building towards being the kind of player and professional that you want to be. At the same time, I do want to echo what Sherrod said because being in Philly last week when Jordan was guarding Maxey, I was like, I think this is the first time in my time covering this team and maybe my time just like being around, watching the Celtics, that they've had a guy who can guard a Maxey. Like, I feel like even when they've had like great defensive players, they have not had, and again, one game, I don't want to overreact, but like he does have something that stands out to me right now over the other candidates in the pool that each kind of bring their own thing. So I don't think anybody should be writing off Jordan. And I guess to my earlier point about like us being dramatic in our analysis, I think the key is that even if Josh starts 9 games, we're not hailing him as the next great thing and saying that means that they're going to sign him to a 4-year extension. And if Jordan has 3 great games and starts, we can't say now like, okay, he was the greatest draft pick of the Brad Stevens era, et cetera. Like the starting doesn't necessarily mean that you're now all set forever and everything's all great and rosy. Like it just means that for right now, that's the guy that Joe trusts the most. And we can accept that and we can write about it and talk about it, but also not extrapolate too much from it because we've already seen this season. We had a Ugo era, we had a Josh era, we had a Jordan era, right? And it was none of those guys' night tonight.
Well said, but let me ask you this. You asked Hauser, I mean, I don't know, I don't want to quote you on this, but you basically asked him, how difficult has it been not to know what your role is going to be at any given night? And he gave a good answer. He said, but he gave an honest answer, I thought. He said it's hard, but he has to remind himself that, basically it's about the team. It's not about himself. Are you worried at some point, though, maybe not him, but maybe some younger players, maybe some players with a different mindset, that the seesawing of playing time or the unknown of whether or not they're even going to touch the court, is that going to weigh on guys, especially if we get into the season here? And, obviously winning cures everything, but let's just say they win and lose around the same rate as they are now. Is anybody on this panel, not just Noah, but is anybody concerned that this could have an adverse effect at some point?
I was thinking today with Simons, I do worry about him a little bit because he's been so set on being the good soldier, Noah, like handling the tough coaching and the way that they've tried to improve his defense and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, he is playing for a contract here, potentially. He does want to regain his standing in the league, I'm sure. So I don't know which way this is going to go. I don't know Anfernee Simons well enough to guess which way that's going to go. And obviously, credit to the Celtics again, making a concerted effort to try to involve him and bump up his minutes in that first half. But is this right? He only ended with 11 minutes at the end of this one.
Credit to the Celtics.
No, he played 19 minutes in the first half. That can't be right.
He had 11 points.
Yeah, Bobby. He had 26. So yeah, I thought he
had 11 points in the first half. I don't believe. I think he had 11 in the first half, and he didn't score in the second half. So again,
I was saying first half.
Kind of like that.
They did a good job trying to get him going and involved and all that. They were swapping his minutes out with Jaylen. He was like the benefactor of Jaylen missing.
I thought Simons and Pritchard were the only reason this was a game in the first half. Those two guys, the guard position carried them.
Yeah.
But to your point, Jimmy and Bobby, about like the psychological thing of like, how is it, what if it does mess with your psyche? Like Jaylen just got benched. That's a finals MVP. That's the face of the team right now. But like he could have sat there pouting at the end of the first half. I don't think I've ever seen Jaylen get benched. I don't think I've ever seen Tatum get benched. And Jaylen could be sitting there being like, you know what? Like, I'm the guy. Like, I'm averaging 28 points a game. I was carrying this offense when nobody else could score. Now I have a couple bad minutes and you're going to pull me. And that wasn't at all his mindset. Like, I saw his body language on the bench. He seemed completely fine with it. And then post-game, he just owned up to it. I played terrible, So it starts there. As soon as it cracks, as soon as you see Jaylen's going to start being like, why am I getting benched? Now Sam's going to be like, I'm the vet here. Why am I playing 7 minutes against the Clippers while Jordan's playing 33? Like, but right now, everybody's on board to what they're sharing.
Because they're winning, right?
Because they're winning, and I think honestly they're not even really winning that much, but they're bought into what Joe is selling, and that's the key, right? That's the key in this league, is that the star players have to be bought into the coaches. Like that's pretty much what being an NBA coach is, not to boil it down too much, but he has buy-in from everybody right now, which is why it's so important that he doesn't lose Jaylen, because you lose Jaylen, who knows what happens next. So to me, like right now, if you're Jordan and you're feeling sorry for yourself because you played 11 minutes tonight, like you don't have it. Like you gotta snap yourself out of it, because there's going to be many more of those roller coaster moments this season. I just don't think they need to be babied. Like these are professional players. Jordan maybe was more of a baby when he got into the league, but part of why he was able to get to this position when starting 3 games in a row is because he became a pro, and a pro handles that well. And I haven't seen any sign from anybody that they're not handling this well, acknowledging that it's difficult. And Sam was honest about that. But it'll be interesting. Chris Boucher, how's he doing? I'd love to know actually, because he hasn't played in weeks.
The guys that go ahead, Shabs.
No, I was just going to say that the guys that I worry about, I was going to say Boucher and Simons, because they're veterans and because they're new to the team and because we've never really seen how they handle the ups and downs. Whereas Jordan, he's been on the bench pretty much his entire NBA career. So when he gets a chance to play a little bit and he has to go back to the bench, he already has the perspective and wherewithal to know what that's like and know how he has to stay ready and prepared for his opportunity. Because if it came around once, there's a pretty good chance it's going to come around again if it goes away at all, which I don't think it will. I think he'll stay in that lineup on Friday at least. But some of those other guys, you wonder how they're going to handle the ups and downs because they've never been through that, and with us getting a chance to see them do that. So Simons, more than anyone else, I'm most worried about because I think he's the one guy who is being asked, I think, to make the most dramatic change in their game, the role that they play, and the minutes that they log. And none of those things is, I think, to his benefit. You're playing fewer minutes. Your role will be diminished, and you're going to get a quicker hook. And it's great to see Jaylen and how he handles when he doesn't play his usual minutes for deficiencies out there. But that doesn't change the fact that if you're Anfernee Simons, I'm a 20-point per game scorer in this league. I get buckets. That's literally why I'm here, because I get buckets. Mm-hmm. And I'm logging 7 minutes here and 19 minutes there. I'm all over the map. It's got to be difficult for him because he's never done anything like this. Because at least when you were in Portland and you weren't playing as much as you wanted to, there's some dude named Dame Lillard that was playing ahead of you. He's pretty damn good. There's no Dame Lillard at the shooting guard spot on his team. You're not playing behind Jaylen Brown. You're playing with Jaylen when you're out there. So, and no disrespect to Payton Pritchard, who's a damn good player, but Payton Pritchard is not Dame Lillard by any stretch of the imagination. So, or at least not young yet. Dame. Okay? Not young Dame. Now, today, different story, obviously. But bottom line is this. Simons is the one guy who, if you're trying to figure out who is going to be challenged the most to figure out how to find their place in space with this team, I think it's Simons. And the fact that his minutes fluctuate the way they have, I don't know. I don't feel good that this is going to end well. Put it that way.
Listen, we're going to have this conversation.
I'm with you, Sherrod.
Every single game. Like it's going to get frustrating after a certain point, but I think to some degree we just have to accept that it's the reality and that they're.
Yeah. Why do I have to accept it?
I think because all we're going to do, Jimmy, is sit here and yell about it every single night.
Then guess what, Bobby?
And listen, I'm fine with
it.
Jimmy. We're doing it again, but I don't think it's going to change. Do you know it?
I don't think so. But it's a long season, and he's going to have plenty of 20-plus point games in the future. But yeah, I don't think it's going to change.
I think we're going to find out. We'll find out soon enough.
We're just like with the rotation thing. We're debating: is it right? Is it wrong? I think winning is the wrong phrase, Jimmy, because they are still floating around 500. They're not losing yet. So I think that allows the buy-in to continue among young players in particular, right? Like Walsh isn't going to go
it's early in the season
off here. And it's early. Everyone's still figuring it out. I give them some grace. Like I'm not, this isn't criticism. They are where they are in terms of the roster, as Alex Cora likes to say, right? Mm-hmm. So this is stuff that they have to do. Like there's no choice. There's a lot of things that they just have to do this year because of where the roster at, because Tatum's out, because they don't know who these guys are yet. And none of them might even be like, I don't know how you feel about this, Noah, but none of these guys might necessarily be a high enough caliber prospect where you have to invest in minutes in them every single night. And like Ugo will be an interesting case as the year goes on. And obviously we talked about whether Maine's warranted for him a little bit early this year. And that'll be a good question as the next couple of weeks here pass. But no one among these young players has separated themselves. And even Simons hasn't done enough to say like, all right, they have to invest in this guy. They have to emphasize these guys' minutes. So I'll be patient, right? I don't fully believe in the fact that shifting the rotation and pulling guys around this much in terms of their roles and changing things this rapidly is the best for any single player or anyone's long-term outlook here. But as long as it keeps them competitive, as long as it continues to win games, and it has, I'll trust it to some degree. I'm skeptical, But Joe's been a good coach through his tenure here. Feels like he's getting a lot out of a lot of different guys, and they're above 500. So I will trust it, but I have some questions about the approach.
Trust the process, he says. Okay. We're going to end it as we typically do on a win with a gimmick if I'm hosting. I'm a huge gimmick guy. Always have been, always will be. One of my favorite gimmicks is the Brownie Award. We talked about Jaylen Brown, so of course we're going to play the Brownie Award game. Amit, hit me with the... All right. Ladies first. Noah, we'll start with you. Who gets your Brownie Award?
This was an easy one for me. I don't know if you guys talked about it before I joined, but Derek White had
We haven't mentioned him all game.
We haven't mentioned it. So
all
perfect for the
show.
Brownie Award. He was huge down the stretch, had some big shots in the fourth quarter. I thought defensively he was the difference in the second half, and part of why they got off to a bad start was because he picked up 2 early fouls, and then he was benched early on. And when Derek's on the floor, bad things happen. Off the floor, bad things happen. He finishes with a very nice, well-rounded stat line and still has not been his usual efficient self, but he impacted the game in so many ways, especially on the defensive end. And that was really the story of this one. I mean, they held the Nets to 38 points in the second half, and I'm going to give Derek a lot of credit for that. He set the tone on that end, and it also hit some big threes. So shout out to him.
Yeah, he came up huge for them in the fourth. Sherrod?
That was a good one. But I'm going to go with Sam Hauser. I thought Sam was just absolutely clutch in this game. Yes, Derek White made some big plays, but so did Sam. And Sam, the thing that I liked about Sam is that he once again showed that he's more than just a catch and shoot guy. I thought that, one of the biggest plays he made was a dribble drive into the paint and a kick out to Derek White for a 3-pointer that I think put him up by 10 at that point. And he had a couple other plays like that, and he shot the ball well. And maybe, one of the, I think, most important stats in this particular game was who was on the floor when the Celtics began to pull away. And more often than not, it was Sam Hauser, who was plus 22 when he was on the floor. So Sam, that's my Brownie guy tonight.
Love it. Bobby?
I'm going to go, it's not a perfect choice, but I do want to give him a little shout out because I don't think we have all show Shireman, who's surviving. And I'm
sorry, who?
I think Shireman. He's surviving.
Do we have
we
a
play
stat
these
line?
after
We don't have a
wins,
stat.
Bobby. We play Brownie. This is like a player that affected
I don't think
the
we
game.
do. You don't think he affected the game?
He did.
No.
He absolutely did.
He did.
So I saw a couple things.
It's Brownie level. There's levels.
So
to this.
this
that's
is an
the thing,
interesting.
Jimmy. That's the thing. Impact the game, Brownie level impact.
Yeah, but
So
you know
this
what? We'll
was an
give Bobby his. You get 10 seconds. No, I'm just
Go
kidding.
ahead, Bobby.
This was an interesting game because they won late, right? They went on the run in the fourth quarter, but there was a lot of stuff that kept them above water in the first half, and he was one of them. I thought solid minutes.
Excuse me.
The defensive numbers are good from him to begin the season. They put the ball in his hands, which I like, and he made some good passes. He, went out and made a shot, I believe, as well. So, listen, subtle impact. It was +3 in 13 minutes. I just want to give him credit, Jimmy, because this guy's been hanging on by a thread in terms of getting minutes here, and I am a little worried about him. But
This might be one time we can give him credit. Is that what you're saying, Bobby?
Wait, this isn't
Yes.
the pity pie, Bobby. This is the Brownie Award.
No, but it's not pity. He
This is the
played
pity
well.
award. Pity pie, man.
He didn't necessarily deserve the
You
award.
think that you
over
giving him this is
Hauser
gonna
over
like maybe earn him a couple extra minutes next game? Is that what
Is
you
this
think
the
is gonna happen?
participation trophy
I just
portion
want
of
to
the
point
program?
out against the
Participation pie.
Clippers,
This is the
Baylor played 18 minutes against the Clippers and Sam played 7. So there's something that he's doing that is keeping him on the floor. And honestly, when I watched it in real time, I didn't know what it was, but he's actually playing really good defense. It just doesn't look as good as when Jordan and Ugo do because he doesn't have the length and the athleticism, but the stats back it up, and he's defended really well. And he is a threat to score and play make a little bit more than those guys. Doesn't necessarily translated, but
He's a 12 player.
Yeah, and I found that interesting coming out of that game, though, because we were talking about, all right, why wasn't Simons playing in that second half of that game? And I think a big reason is that Harden's just going to hunt whoever the best or worst defender is on the floor, and they obviously didn't feel comfortable putting him in that position. but they did feel comfortable putting Shireman out there for, as you mentioned, a lot of minutes of that game. So he's just hanging in there, and he's in a difficult spot, right? It's the whole conversation we've had all show here. Guys getting lost, guys not having consistent roles. They've continued to give him just a couple minutes here and there every night. He's making the most of those. The offense, I still have concerns about what his role ultimately is in this offense. But if it's going to be rebounding and defense and hustling that keeps him alive in this rotation, and that gets him at least a few minutes every night, that could build into something. And like we said, who knows how health goes throughout the course of this year? Who knows how, would a week from now or 2 weeks from now, would our minds be blown if Shireman's starting a game? I think that's probable. I think it's within reason that could happen. So the key to that is just hanging in there. And he has. So credit to Baylor.
The first ever Brownie Award for hanging on by a thread given out to Bobby tonight. We're going to wrap it. Before we do, I'm going to give my award. Sherrod, the professor himself, understood the assignment. Sherrod, I'm going to piggyback on your Sam Hauser pick for the Brownie Award tonight. I think this is a guy that, in the spirit of the Brownie Award, showed up exactly when you needed him to most. Huge, clutch moments for them with the steal. I think, was it Mazzulla who said it was the play of the game, Bobby? I think he mentioned it after the game. So I think there was a turning point in the game. And again, it's great to see Hauser kind of getting back into a little bit here. And Noah, you mentioned it was a defensive play that, really actually stood out to him or stood out for him. So Hauser gets my award. I think overall, great picks, everybody. Bobby, you can work on yours for Friday a little bit more, maybe. But we'll see if Hauser gets some.
I like Bobby's pick.
If Shireman gets some extra burn on Friday, we'll give you some credit for that. And speaking of Friday, you guys will be back in Boston. Celtics Nets rematch at the TD Garden. Bobby and Noah will be there. We will have you covered from start to finish. And once again, Celtics above 500 after beating the Nets 113-99. It's a party in Boston, kid.
That was the Bobby woo, actually. I don't know if you guys recognize it.
Woo! What do you got, Bobby?
Yeah.
Bobby.
I do not have a woo in me tonight. I do not have a woo in me tonight.
We'll wait for Friday.
Sorry,
Bobby was nervous.
This game was not woo-worthy. I did say off the top, Noah, and I was very nervous as this game started that we were about to get a
Bobby, there's a 0% chance the Nets win one of the next two games, Manning. Yeah. It's tough when they were down by 10, huh?
He was sitting on his hands. He was.
He couldn't even look at me.
If the Celtics win on Friday,
then
Noah
you
might have to
prove
do
nothing. It just means that they won 2 games. It doesn't mean they had 100%
beat the worst team twice.
You better pray, Bobby. You better pray. All right, we're out of here, guys. Thanks for everyone for watching. Thanks, Noah and Bobby, for jumping on. Thank you, Sherrod, for starting the show with me. And we will see you guys all on Friday. Deuces.